Yeah, it's funny. I've got some radon friends that are texting me. Um, Here we go.
All right, it is live on Facebook. So we're going to assume I'm going to check YouTube, and every time I do it, it gives me a nice echo. So I apologize if it does that, but I'm just going to check the. Yeah, yep, there's the echo, and it's working. Fantastic. Uh, so what happens is my computer audio gets funneled back into the stream. So I learned that the first couple of weeks on when I would pop over to YouTube to make sure that it's working okay. Uh, I'm like, people are like, why are we hearing something that happened 30 seconds ago? Like, I don't know, because it's playing through my ears. So we've got. I'm gonna invite everybody over on Facebook to pop in. Um, we got Jim's here. Kyle, we've got a lot of our regulars here. Welcome to our weekly call. Those of you who we don't see during the our normal ones, we are so glad you're joining us. Um, Let me actually, Bruno, I'm gonna have you. Can you stop your share for a minute,
Sure.
and then
By the way, your background fuzz went away. You sound perfect
d-
finally.
thank you. It's probably the Chinese I had for lunch. Um, that fixes everything. So
All right.
I did start unplugging things, so we'll see. I but the conversation over lunch was about the background buzz on my thing, and I told my wife the price tag that it's in my mind to fix it. So it was that conversation did not go well for a weekly Zoom meeting just to have a little less buzz. She's like, "You can mute yourself, right?" Yeah, okay, just do that. All right. Um, we did make some changes to the way that everything's looking on here. So, um, yeah, hopefully getting David in here soon. I haven't. I think they got the. I'm just glad the link worked because what happened was we had Daryl on a few weeks ago, and I went uh, into the Zoom event and the uh, I changed the name of the event because I thought, oh, that'll be nice. It'll show what it is. By changing that, it like it grabbed that as the URL from then on. So I saw somebody clicked on one of our old ones, and I get a notification every once in a while by email when people join. It's like somebody joined your Daryl Festa. I'm like, no, that happened 2 weeks ago, so 3 weeks ago.
Well,
So hope
I hope he joins us because we've now wasted 6 minutes of these fine people's time. So,
that's true. So uh, how's everybody doing? Anything new and exciting going on with anybody? That's anybody want to share anything that's exciting in their business or their life right now?
Oh, sure. Let me move the button forward over. Okay.
Steve, you're un Steve, you're unmuted and you're echoing a little bit there.
So that's all right, guys.
Does everybody hear the echo or is it just me?
yeah, we can hear it.
Okay. I'm not quite sure what
And then
that.
maybe to the Zoom.
Steve, I'm going to mute you on the off chance that you may be unmuted on accident. You can always unmute if you got something. So, all right. Anybody else? Nobody else has anything exciting? Nothing at all. All right. Well, I know that David will be jumping in here. I'm, they just asked me about the link a little bit ago, so I just want to double check that I didn't miss anything. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get started here, and we have been looking forward to this one for a while. This is we've invited Bruno from Utah Radon Services. who is currently not doing radon and not in Utah. So he's 0 for 2 on his business title, but he is that they had snow in Utah, so he went to Arizona and is currently in a nondescript location. He may be in the witness protection program right now. I'm not 100% sure, but we're not. Oh, there's David. Welcome. Uh, David, you need to unmute yourself. I cannot do it for you.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry about
There,
that. I was actually sitting there waiting for everybody to come on. So there I go.
Hey, David.
we're all here. Uh,
Okay.
so I was starting to introduce Bruno, but if you'd like to introduce him more so than I did, I only said that he's Bruno and is not in Utah.
Yeah, Bruno and I go back a long ways, don't we, Bruno?
We
Uh,
do.
yeah, well, I was just going to say thanks once again, everybody, for just as an opening statement, for participating in our what we call the Customer Appreciation Month. We not only had our best month ever in our 10-year history, but our best week. And appreciate you guys all for being customers. And I wanted to make a quick statement. A lot of rumors going around about the new fan requirements, and maybe they're going to go around for a while. And Daryl Fest is willing to do another webcast. But just to kind of clarify things, we do have a full line of fans that are legal for attics. EBM, the German motor manufacturer that Festa uses, work very hard with Festa to come up with what they are convinced is the best solution for the new electrical requirements, and it is a whole new line of electronic fans. So just to calm down some of the rumors that we've been hearing, there is a full line with the Festa organization that we have in stock to meet and exceed all new electrical requirements. And EBM and Festa were so confident and excited about this solution that they came up with. They even put a warranty that is 40% more than any fan warranties ever had, meaning 7 years. And so, with that, I'd like to introduce Bruno. First, thanks for coming on, Bruno. Uh, Appreciate everything you do for the industry. So, you've been real good about sharing some of the things that you do in marketing that have helped you set the example. So I think we need to leave as much time as we can for you. So have it.
Hey, appreciate it, David, and thanks for the invite. Um, I was taking a look at the announcement about this, and I think it was written by a marketer because I think you way oversold what about me and what we're going to be talking about. So you guys need to lower your expectations here. The other thing that I'm excited about with this is that this is a little bit longer format. So I'm hoping that people will jump in and either, I don't know if you want them to use the chat or just to jump in, but um, you have a comment, you have a question on something I'm saying, I'm okay to be interrupted. So, the whole goal for this is that our group learns together and shares together. So I hope it's not just me talking the whole time. And then, of course, I'm going to have Ben and you, David, jump in when it's appropriate to kind of share your thoughts too. So that's kind of the idea. I'm going to go to the dreaded PowerPoint presentation. And the reason for this, I guess I'm going to have to share my screen. Reason for this is just going to kind of help keep us on track. So, all right, just give me a thumbs up that you can see this and we can keep going. We good, Ben?
We're good.
All right, excellent. All right, so here's some free radon advice. You guys paid a lot for this advice, so don't expect much. You're going to get what you paid for. Let's see what we can come up with. All right, so the objectives of this discussion, again, I really hope that this is a discussion back and forth, and not just me talking with my headphones into my laptop. Speaking of which, Ben mentioned that I'm at an undisclosed location. In my old age, I just turned 51 in January. I'm getting less and less tolerant of being in the snow. So in Utah, actually, let me just quickly look right now. In Utah, it is, let's see if you can see, it's 24 degrees right now. And let's see, and where I am, and I don't mean to rub it in, but right now it's 62. So it's actually a cold day here. No golfing today, but so anyway, I'm I'm working from Phoenix area for a while. Okay, objectives. Let's jump into it. Number one, I'd like to cover real world radon business issues. I have been in the radon business for only 8 years. Before that, I owned some other companies that I started and grew and then sold. And when I was 40 years old, I sold a couple of businesses. One was a .com that I started it back in 98, so really early, grew it for 17 years and sold it. And I thought I retired, but at 40 years old, it's way too young. So at 42 years old, I was talking to a buddy at the gym, and he mentioned he was doing something with radon. And I knew that radon existed, but I didn't take it seriously because you never hear about it, at least not in Utah. And I did a little bit of research, saw it was a big problem in Utah, and saw there was an opportunity to jump in. So I jumped in 8 years ago, and we've gone from just myself to now we're right around 65 employees. So that kind of gives you an idea of growth. And currently we have 18 crews, and that's actually limited for. I got 18 Sprinter vans that we're using. We probably could be running 20 right now this time of year, but we're running 18 crews and we fix two homes a day. So you can quickly do the math and doing a lot of helping a lot of people, which is fun. And it's fun that we grew it from nothing to where we are, and I'm excited about the future. So, with all that said, let's cover real world radon business issues. And I think that I haven't experienced all the ones that you guys have, but hopefully can share some things that'll be insightful to you. And I really realize that Utah is so different than other places. I mentioned Brian Coy a little bit earlier. I've always joked with him. I'm like, dude, I am not coming to Colorado. I'm scared of you guys. And so I know that each place has different needs and different challenges.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to really address what I've experienced. Number two, this is a huge thing for me. The whole reason why I've spent any time preparing for this or am willing to do this is the hope is that I can inspire, or together collectively can inspire an idea that some or all of you can then implement in your own radon business. That's the whole goal. I'm not. I don't really have any other objectives to jump on and share ideas. So I'm just hoping you'll be inspired. And when I go to trade shows or other things, oftentimes it's not the thing that somebody says or teaches, but it's actually just an idea that pops into my head that inspires me, that makes it all worthwhile. So you may find that all my advice is just basic and worthless, but you might have an idea jump into your brain for your business. If that's the case, then this actually was a success. So that's my goal here. So kind of be a catalyst for thinking about your business. And then again, hopefully lots of Q&A. So that's kind of where we are. Does that sound okay with you, David?
Yes, absolutely. I told everyone this was going to be informal and it was to be your opportunity to ask questions.
Good. Excellent. So, all right. So let's start with this. If I were to talk with each one of you independently, and hey, how's your radon business doing? How you doing? Is it all rainbows and butterflies every single day? So, David, when you're talking to people, I mean, people love to call you, ask you for questions and stuff. How often does somebody call you and say, David, I just wanted to call and just say, man, radon business is awesome, it's easy, and life is good. Just wanted to say hi. How often do you get that phone call?
Well, most of them are grateful for the service they provide to families in
Yeah.
terms of their health, but they all agree with me. It's a tough business to survive and to implement.
It's a tough business. So it's not always rainbows and butterflies. So if we were to kind of do that's kind of the question, hey, how's your business? Rainbows and butterflies. Let's look at what some of the answers could be. So this is kind of a tough one. So, our friend Macaulay Culkin, he went through a rough patch. So ask yourself, is your business looking a little bit like this, or Here's the good news. It's a little bit dark, but let's make it happy. Or does it look like this? So our friend Macaulay, he turned himself around. He's got a beautiful wife and children, and it's looking better. So, what state is your business in right now? Is it this or is it this? And I'm really happy to say, because I've spoken with tons of different mitigators, and it's fun becoming friends with new ones. And luckily, it is possible to turn this around and be more like this. So, happy ending. Our friend Macaulay, he's doing well now. So that's your business. We're just going to cover three basics today, and we can go into tangents and other things if anybody wants to, especially on the Q&A session at the end. But I really wanted to focus on three, and I started with five. But as I started diving into it, I just thought I don't want to oversaturate you guys with stuff that ultimately is not going to make that big of a difference. So the key here too is we're covering basics. And let me explain why. Um, so a polarizing figure right now in politics is a fairly well-known dude from South Africa that happens to make electric cars, makes rockets. He's made some flamethrowers. He owns a boring company that makes tunnels and things like that. So, I mean, obviously, I'm talking about Elon Musk. Um, why has Elon Musk been so successful at so many different businesses? And I think at first people might think, oh, he's got a trick up his sleeve or he does something different, and that is true in some ways. But I believe after really watching him progress, is that he's really good at the basics. And sometimes the basics can be very technical. I mean, you look at, I love space and anything rocketry. You look at what's been going on lately with space. You've got Boeing, who has had contracts with NASA for decades, and they've had some pie on their face recently with their latest big project that ultimately stranded a couple of astronauts up at the space station because they deemed that the spacecraft that they flew up on was not safe enough to fly back. And so now Elon Musk has to send a spaceship up to rescue them. And so, what does this all mean? It means we can sometimes get really technical and get really tricky, but if we're not covering the basics, then ultimately we fail. And I think we're starting to see more and more that Boeing has has left some of the basics. Also, if you think about like the Dreamliner, you think about the door coming off of the aircraft that was flying to Hawaii. They've had some real bad press, and I think it's because of problems of not covering the basics. So again, that's what we're going to go back to. Happy to go into some more, technical things to answer some of your questions, but if you're not doing the basics well, then you're not going to be able to do the hard stuff. And when I start any of my meetings and I'm working with my managers, we are talking for primarily most of the meeting on, again, the basics, and not on, future pie in the sky or tricky stuff. So let's jump into the first thing, self-evaluation. So I'm assuming that most of the people that are going to be watching this or are on this are business owners, or you are running a radon company. So ask yourself, which of these three jobs types do I tend to prefer? When I mean tend to prefer, it would be you have an opportunity to spend a little bit of time working on something on a Saturday morning. Are you going to gravitate towards which one of these three types? Let's jump into it. The first one would be production. So you're installing radon systems. You're building the final product. And in this case, in our industry, it's pretty much a radon mitigation system. Okay, production, installation. Next one, sales marketing. These are the tasks where you are trying to find customers, and then you're trying to sell and close the customers, get them on the schedule. Sales and marketing. And the third, the administrative stuff. So you're handling the customer service, HR, which includes everything from employees to hiring to firing to training, finances. So you're not just doing, putting all your receipts into QuickBooks, but you're also handling um, payables, receivables, taxes, ugh, that kind of stuff. Inventory purchasing. And it's typically the administrator of the company that is the forward thinking and really trying to figure out where are we taking this next. So these are the three different types. So I mean, ask yourself right now, what am I good at? What do I tend to gravitate towards? And is it possible to be more than one of these? Absolutely. Is it even it's possible to be all three, but there are segments of each one that you tend to shy away from. So me personally, I've probably installed personally 50 radon systems. That's it. And I enjoyed it, but I decided that the best place for me within my company would be to do some of these other things. And so I stepped back from production side of things. Sales and marketing, I got a lot of experience with that, and it's okay. Uh, and then administration, that's probably the one that seems the most boring, but that's what I have gravitated to because I love to build and I love to create and I love to figure out new processes of ways that we're going to do things. However, within administration, I'll tell you what, I absolutely hate HR. Um, David, are you an HR guy, or do you tend to let somebody else enjoy that?
I think I'm better at the sales part.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. But don't put yourself short. Production. Every time I've ordered from you, I get my things quickly. So you do that pretty well too. All right, so going back to admin, HR, I mean, dealing with hiring, firing, all that kind of stuff. That's one aspect of it, but there's another aspect as you grow, and that is actually making sure that you're compliant with HR laws, which isn't fun. I mean, unfortunately, I had an employee quit just yesterday, and what are the HR aspects of that we have to make sure of? So I provide 401k and also health insurance to my employees. I had to make sure that they are now aware that they can now be on Cobra or what happens with their 401k and stuff like that. So again, that inventory, and then you have to be forward thinking. We're going to discuss this more. So let's jump into each one of these. But before we do, let me kind of do something that's a little bit different than maybe if you go to a Tony Robbins seminar, he might say something different. I've never been to one, so I don't know what he says. But I say this time and time again. By the way, Ben, you are buzzing, so if you can mute yourself. Um, so thank you. If you were to say, all right, should I work on my weaknesses or should I work on my strengths? I'm going to tell you every single day, don't waste time or energy on your weaknesses. And this is as it relates to your business. And that's kind of bad advice. I mean, shouldn't I actually, if I suck at something, shouldn't I improve? And here's why. I don't know how many of you guys ever go to the gym. It doesn't look like I do, but I actually go to the gym all the time. And what I've noticed over the last 20 years is at the gym, the fat stay fat and the skinny stay skinny. And you see people year after year that go, and us fatzos, we're still fat, and the skinny ones are still beautiful and skinny, but we're still all going to the gym. So what's going on here? And what I'd like to say is it possible to turn a weakness into a strength? Absolutely. You bet. Is it likely? Come on, human nature. It's actually not very likely. And so, do you really want to buck the trend and be that 1 in 100 that turns a weakness into a strength, or just accept reality and focus on your strengths and let's get other people to help you with your weaknesses? So I told you to mute yourself, Ben, but let's get you back on. You, Ben, are somebody that I think people go to when they are feeling some weaknesses. So what would be some of the things when you talk to people as they're inbound and just exploring, your services? What are some of the things that people say to you of like, I need help with X? you know. Nope, you're muted. Nope.
He's still muted.
Yep. He's gonna do pantomime, sign language. Okay,
Uh,
when you get back on, Ben, then we'll get back to you if you'll figure out how to unmute yourself. But again, this seems like such a simple thing, but I hear over and over, again of these entrepreneurs, and they're working at stuff, and they just say, I hate this part of the business. And I immediately ask them, then why are you doing it? Why can't you find somebody else to do it? And I know that resources, especially with a newer business or even with a mature business, resources can be thin, but ultimately this is your life and you have to decide what you're going to be spending your time and energy on, and don't spend it on stuff that you hate. All
I,
right.
I'm here.
So
You
yeah,
can
go
hear me,
ahead.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, Ben. Yeah, what are people saying to you when they come to you at first?
the number one reason that people come to me is they want to grow their business, right? And so they're at here and they want to be here, or they used to be here and now they're here, right? And so they've either gotten a lot of business that, maybe a new competitor came to town and took some of that business. Maybe they lost their edge. Maybe they forgot that they've stopped doing some of those business building things that they had to do when they first got started, and they got a little lazy. When they first got started, they were hungrier. And so they were taking real estate agents out to lunch. They were going out, they were, passing out free tests. They were doing all these things that generated the business. And then they started getting word of mouth. And then maybe that has dropped off and we go through the cyclical versions of our businesses. And so, in that first conversation, it's always, I'm always goal setting. Where are you at now? Where do you want to be? And then from there, we're looking for the weaknesses that they either know about or don't know about. I mean, some of the weaknesses are Jim Emanuel always gives me a hard time because I said one time that you should be answering your phone or responding. Jim left me a voicemail this morning and he said, "You now have 4 minutes and 59 seconds to call me back." Thankfully, I was just freshening up my coffee, but that, we joke about that, but that's a thing where I know that there are guys that are waiting and a week to respond to a message, and they're surprised when they don't get that job. And so some of the stuff is just getting back to that hungry, I want it, I'm willing to work for it. And that goes back to the gym mentality, right? If you want it, you're going to work for it. You're going to put in the the inputs to get the outputs. So
Yep, love it. Well, and here's an example of what I was hoping for. And I mean, you said something that I don't have in this presentation, but I want to echo it because it's so important. And that is force yourself to remember what got me to where I am now. What were my successes? Because it's so easy, the old cliche of grass is greener on the other side. And so you're focusing on these new projects or new places or things like that, and you don't focus on the backyard.
grass
And
is greener where you water it.
oh my goodness. Well, and keep watering the grass of
Yeah.
your back, yard.
Yeah.
Stop looking at the one over the fence. So such a key point is identify the things that were successful for you and then figure out how do I keep doing it. But with that in mind, you're going to then reach saturation. And so you're going to have to then say, not how do I keep doing it, but how do we keep doing it? And you got to start thinking team mentality. Um, a really impactful business statement. I don't even know who I heard this from, so I can't give them credit. It's not my idea. But they said that if you can do something at, let's say, 100%, and you're the owner of the business, you're the CEO. If you can find an employee that can do it 80% as good as you, then you should now pass it off to that employee. So don't expect that they're ever going to do it as good as you, and probably they are going to do it better than you, but you're going to think that you can do it better. But if they can do it even 80% as well as you think you can do it, that's something that you should not be spending your time and focus on anymore. You should pass that off to somebody else. And I have told myself that dozens of times every single year as I'm looking and I'm self-assessing. It's like, why am I doing this? Should I be doing this or not? So I put myself through college driving forklifts at ABF Trucking, and actually, forklift is really fun to drive and stuff. And so for the first, I think 4 years of maybe even 5 years of my yeah, 4 or 5 years of my business, I actually was both the CEO and the warehouse guy and the janitor. And part of it is because, again, what do you gravitate towards things you like? I enjoyed driving the forklift. I enjoyed, stocking the shelves and things like that. But pretty quickly, I started asking myself, why am I doing this? I've got so many other things that I should be doing. And, now, I mean, of course, I've got a warehouse guy full time. He's my nephew, by the way, and I'll digress. Is nepotism good or bad? And my answer is I love nepotism. I've employed my in-laws, my brother, my sisters. I've got two nephews that work for me right now. I have nieces that work for me, and nepotism is actually great. You can make it work. So anyway, just a little digress. So getting back to it, if you can find somebody else to do it even 80% as good as you should pass it off, even if you like to do it. It's for the best of your business. Okay, so don't spend time, energy on your weaknesses. Let's go on to the next one, production. So we're talking about installing systems. Um, Part of the fun about this industry has been meeting all these people throughout the country. There are so many nice people within our industry. Yeah, there's a couple of jerks, and I won't name who, but I mean, for the most part, everybody's great. And as you're talking to them, getting to know them, you can quickly tell where do they gravitate within these three things. And most of them, especially on the medium to smaller side of the business, they're all into the production. They're the ones installing the systems. They and then their son or their son-in-law are installing the systems. So it's the most common preference focus among the radon mitigators I've met, and that's totally fine. The question though is that self-limiting? Are you going to end up having a glass ceiling if you are always focused on production? And the answer is absolutely yes, because as you get busier, as you're becoming successful, it's going to get to the point where it's overwhelming enough you're not going to be able to do the admin. And so I see people they start, they grow, they're doing well, they're busy, and then they get burned out. So let me ask you, jump back to you, David. How often are you talking to guys and you can just feel they're tired, they're burned out, and these are even the successful ones. I mean, what do you hear from people?
Well, I couldn't agree more. I'd say a very, very large percentage of the people I deal with, my feeling is they're doing too much of their own work. And they get the mentality that nobody can do it to suit them, or nobody can do it to the degree they can do it. But
Which is
but
probably
that's
true.
well, it is. But like you say, if you've got somebody that can do it 80% as good, then you can work on it. But I would have to agree with you 100%. The biggest problem I see with people, they're always scared to hire because it's a scary thing knowing I have to make payroll. If I do that, I have to pay insurance. But I keep telling them, don't be scared. That's incentive for you to work harder at getting those jobs. But the first thing you have to learn is you can't do all the work because you've
No,
got to own this company and manage it too. But that's what you're good at, Bruno, for teaching. But as far as the question goes, I agree with you in what you said. The biggest problem I see is radon mitigation company owners that are doing too much of the work themselves, therefore not having the time to do the things you're trying to teach them now.
absolutely, absolutely. And not to get too philosophical, but I don't know if we go around this merry-go-round again, reincarnation, or is this it one and done, or whatever. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, this life is incredibly precious. And as I watch my parents age, they now are getting into their 80s. I'm seeing then struggles with health and stuff. And God, you got to make the most of every single day. And so that's why I'm sitting here in Arizona right now. But it is possible to sit in Arizona, and we're installing 36 systems today. So it's possible to do both. But all right, so getting back to the production side of things and the installing systems, uh, you have to be a realist, and maybe I, I think they wouldn't mind if I give this example. So I've got some really good friends in Colorado, Don and Jeff, and they owned a radon company there for many years, a couple of decades, and did very well with it. And Jeff, as the owner, he was Mr. Production, and he pretty much stayed on the production side of things. And so, how is it that they grew as successful as they were? It was because of Don and other people that then were able to handle the admin. So, is it possible for you to stay focused on production? Yes, but recognize you are going to need to find others help you on the marketing, sales, and the admin. And if you are doing both production and sales, you are going to be limited, that glass ceiling. Probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but my guess is it would be very difficult to do 10 systems a week. So we're talking two a day if it's just you doing the installs, but then you are also doing everything else. You could probably do it if you're 5 systems a week, but you're still going to be pretty darn busy, and it'll be hard to grow past that. What have you guys seen with that? I mean, what's kind of the first glass ceiling on a one person radon company for the number of installs they can do, and then and keep all the balls up in the air? What do you think the max can be, and them have any kind of a decent life? Any thoughts?
Well, I'll chime in again, not to sound repetitive, but I get to talk to mitigators all day long, so I'm the exception to maybe the meeting here. But the fear of growth is what I would call it, where that one person is working themselves to death to a point that it affects them, their family life, their personal life, and they are doing some growth at the cost of working themselves to death, but scared to death to take that move that is required to get to the next level.
Yeah.
Matt,
So let's talk about that. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say I'm watching the comments over on Facebook, so we got a handful of people watching over there, and Matt Griswold said just 5 to 6 a week is pretty much what you're saying, just in
Yeah,
that zone.
yeah, that makes sense.
And
And
that's working on
you can.
Saturdays for a lot of guys too, right? They're going out or they're working more than an 8 hour day.
Oh, no, absolutely. 5 to 6 a week, you are easily pulling in a 50-hour week, and it's week after week. Also recognize when you want to go to that kids um, soccer thing that's in another state. When you're not working, you're not making any money. Nobody else is working for you and stuff. So agree with what you say, David. And as I've talked to people, I've been surprised at how much fear there is of actually taking on employee number one. I'll tell you what, employees number two, three, five, 65 are much easier than employee number one. And I think it's really an unfounded fear. You are going to need to have workers' comp insurance. You already should have liability insurance, and you're going to end up having to make probably bi-monthly tax payments on payroll kind of a thing. But do you know how to do that? No. Is it rocket science? No. And can you get help from external people? Absolutely. So I was lucky because I already have a relationship with an outside accountant when I started this business because they worked with me on my other businesses. But it's not hard. And you can have an outside person just help you with those, and they don't spend very much time at all, and you don't spend very much cost on that. So it's because you don't want to pay um, workers' comp, or you don't want to pay any kind of federal payroll taxes or Social Security. Do not let that stop you. It's not hard. So just keep that in mind. All right, next one. Um, with all my businesses, I've been really lucky. I've started 4 businesses, and they've all been successful, thank goodness. But with each one that I started, I had to ask myself, why in the world do I think I'm special and my business is special? And what am I going to do to be different? And if you can't answer what makes you and your company and your systems different, then you need to start immediately spending time and go back to the drawing board, because you have to be able to answer that question. If you don't believe in something of, okay, we're different, especially because of X, Y, and Z, then you should expect to stay less than your potential. And the number one advice I would give is, what makes your systems different? Don't have the answer be we're cheaper. Do not do that. You don't have to be the most expensive out there,
Yep.
but if you are trying to build your business and build your brand and just say, you know what, I know it's really hard right now, and I got to make my mortgage payment, and so I'm just going to sell a system for $800. And I'm hoping that when all said and done, I can make $100 of cash profit after this. It's so self-limiting, and I don't want to call it small thinking, but you will never grow, and you will always be struggling to make ends meet. And so the answer of what makes your systems different, don't make it price. Comments? All right.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So I was doing the math with your market compared to where I'm at in Chicago.
Unfortunately,
Am
I
I,
think you have two different maybe speakers going or something, because there's a bad echo.
let me see. Is that better? Yeah.
No. Maybe what you can do is write your question on the chat, and then David can read it to me or something. So sorry. Um, we'll wait for him to do that chat, and then we'll answer it. Okay, so let's jump on to the next one. All right, how do you move past just you installing? And I love asking this to the one man shops, because it is such a leap of just going from one to two. And a lot of them talk about bringing on 1099 and 1099 contractors. And I want to caution you on that, because at least here in Utah, it's completely illegit in that if you're doing any new construction, you're probably going to be violating any of the agreement that you have with them. That you're supposed to identify and let them know of any subcontractors that you're using, stuff like that. And even if you're treating them like an employee, it's still not legitimate. The other thing is that they are not covered under your liability insurance by no means. And also, if they're a 1099, likely they're not a sophisticated one, and so they're not carrying workers' comp insurance for themselves. And so, just FYI, at least my company, every single year, workers' comp does an audit on us. And it's not like an IRS audit, but I mean, it's just a yearly workers' comp audit. And people that are 1099s, subcontractors or contractors that we have to prove to them that they have workers' comp themselves, or they will actually back charge us workers' comp that we are paying for them. And so you're not getting away from not paying workers' comp insurance. They will actually back charge you on it. So getting back to this, the easy way of trying to solve this problem, 1099, is actually not the best or the most legitimate way of doing it. Just suck it up and actually get an employee. Make person number two employee number one. So let me say that again. Make person number two employee number one, and you're good to go. Now, can you use a lot of subcontractors? Oh my goodness, yes, and we're going to get into that. But when it comes to your production side of things, installation, they should be your employees that are installing the systems. So some of you may be using subcontractors. I'd be, I don't want to pick on you, but I'd be interested to hear if anything that I've said is not correct. But in terms of growth, you got to think I got to do this legitimately, and I also have to do this with the least amount of liability to me and my company as possible. And from what I've seen, I just can't see how you can do that through subcontractors because of the things that I said. Anybody have any comments as it relates to that? Because maybe there is a way of doing it. I just don't know.
Bruno, I'm gonna say the thing that I always tell. I know in Illinois, I had a different business where they in the industry they use a lot of subcontractors or 1099s, and it's totally illegal to do that. And it always came down to when I was actually audited by the Illinois Department of Employment Security, or IDES, and they always just said if you tell someone when and where to work, they are an employee. Like it was just
Yeah.
that, like that was the litmus test. And then the caveat to that is, do they own a business that does the same thing? So if you hire someone else that owns a radon business to step in and help you on a job or help you for a few days, then that's going to pass the smell test. But if you are hiring someone who doesn't have their own tools and doesn't have their own truck, and they don't, like, you are just getting yourself deeper into, at least in workers' comp is one thing, but the unemployment is a whole other, like, it's a nightmare if they catch you, because they'll go back however many years, look at all of your every check you cut in an audit, and see if anybody has a name or not a business, and so it's just not worth it. So it's
Yeah,
just
and think about, I mean, people do get injured as well. I actually had an installer, unfortunately, slip off a ladder and he broke a couple of bones in his foot. And so, had he been not an employee and covered under, workers' comp things, could have been a lot of problems. I'm looking at the time. We need to keep moving on, but just want to, push on that. And so, if you have questions, I'm going to give my contact information at the end of, how do I move from really one to my first employee? I'm happy to talk to you offline. Let's also talk about how do you move past just you installing to training. And the way that we do it, we do it a little bit differently than others, but let me just kind of share. So I run two-man crews. So I have a installer who's certified, and at least in Utah, I mean, everybody needs to be certified. So we are not a certification state. So we do, NRPP certification. And then I have an assistant. All of my assistants are then helping it to make the installer have a shorter day because they're installing two systems. The goal is, you have an 8 or 9 hour day. You don't have a 12 or 14-hour day. So I am hiring my future installers from my assistant pool. And are all of my assistants installer capable someday? No, some will just always remain assistants, and they don't even want to become installers. But that's how I'm doing it. So when we get to the point where it's time to install, to bring on another installer, let's say I've got 4 installers, I want to go to 5. One of my crews will then turn into a 3-man crew. I want you to think about how crazy expensive this is, but it's working really well. So now I've got a 3-man crew, and the third man is an assistant who's now going to be training to become an installer. And that installer is now training them. So the installer is not doing the installation work, but it's that assistant in training. And then the other assistant is now doing the coring, the digging, putting on the manometer, cleaning everything up, if painting the system, something like that. And so the running of the pipes and everything can then be done on the training side of things. My company spends, and this is painful, but I'll just admit it, 2 to 3 months per installer in training. And if you think about it, there's zero additional production for this. So imagine paying a future employee 3 months worth of pay, and you didn't get any additional production. Very painful. But on the flip side, we don't have turnover, or very little turnover. And my guys, once they get on, they're installing systems that are exceptional and not bad. And so you're not now running after problems and things like that. So what does that also mean? You better bring on people that, if you're going to invest that much, you better really believe in them. So some of the things that you can do for them to prove themselves, they've already been an assistant for a while, but also it could be that they've already gone through and they passed the installer tests. So that way they kind of prove that they really are motivated to get that done. Just FYI, I'd be curious to see what everybody thinks. NRPP now has two different types of certifications. You basically have like senior installer and then mitigation junior installer or something like that. What we've done is we had enough employees before they changed it that we have a bunch of senior installers. But any new installers that I have coming on, they just have to take the test and pass the lesser of the installation, and they then are supervised by one of us. So unless there's a reason for it, I don't see a reason for you pushing your employees to pass the harder of the installation, mitigator tests. So anyway, just if anybody has any comments on that. And
Bruno,
then
did you
Ben,
see that
did we get
question?
that question? No,
Yes.
I don't see chat, so
Got
you're
it.
gonna
So
have to
so,
tell me.
so our 16308 says Chicagoland installs around 10,000 systems per year with a 10 million population. You're doing 10,000 systems per year with a 1 million population. So how many systems are being installed in the Salt Lake City area per year? So like I guess the question might be, what is your piece of the pie of that?
Yeah. So we're about 85% of all of Utah installations, and we cover the entire state. So, and Utah has just a little bit over 3 million population. So, yeah, good question. All right, let's jump on to the next one. And this is just a no-brainer. If you're actually in this business for the long haul, don't cut corners. There are only a couple of radon companies that I'm aware of that they do bad quality work. They cut corners. They're dishonest with their customers, and somehow they're still in business. Most of the companies that I've seen that have been successful, and what I mean by successful is they're installing a good amount of systems. They're doing a good job. They're not cutting corners. So you cut corners now, and you're basically limiting your future opportunities. Plus, it just feels good to go to bed at night and know that you and your company and are honest with your customers. Okay, next one, marketing sales. Actually, getting back to it, did we ever, Ben, get that question written on the chat that I can answer? That was the echo.
My guess is maybe that was the question. If not,
Okay.
I haven't
All
seen
right.
another one other than someone
Okay.
saying
Sounds
the
good.
race to the bottom is a swift one when it comes to pricing.
Absolutely. Yep. Good point. All right. Marketing sales. This means actually getting the job. And it really is a 1-2 thing. Um, so let me start by saying, unless you absolutely love marketing and sales, then outsource at least the marketing part. Bad news, you can't outsource the sales. That's part of like, your soul of your company, your heart of your company, but you definitely can outsource the marketing. So that is number one. If you love it, now you have to ask yourself, how much time should you dedicate towards it, and what are you going to not be doing as a result? So let's say that you actually do enjoy production, you enjoy installing radon systems. If you are spending a bunch of your time building a website, now all of a sudden one of these is going to suffer. If you are being successful, you're not going to have time to do the installations, and that's what's paying the bills. If you're doing the installations, you're never going to get around to actually finishing your website. So think about that. So you got to figure out, first of all, when it comes to marketing, what makes us special. I said that before, I'll say it again. If you don't know what makes your company and you stand out, you got to keep thinking about it until you come up with something, because if you're nothing special, you're going to get nothing special results. So true. And by the way, we all believe that we're special. Our wives then, push us back into, No, you're not. You're not special. So if you think you're special, just talk to your wife. She'll knock you back down to reality, and then share with her what you think is going to make your company special. And if she doesn't think so, then keep working on it. So my wife, love her to death. She is wonderful at letting me know, no, nothing special. Keep working. All right. Here's the first thing, and I'm talking about marketing here. And Ben, you might say something different, but here's my thought. It all starts with your website. Um, I haven't picked up a Yellow Pages in it was about 10 years ago, and I was shooting Yellow Pages. I've got a silencer, and so shooting in the basement, Yellow Pages, and nobody could hear it. It was kind of fun, but that's the only purpose of Yellow Pages is shooting guns at it. So the Yellow Pages is dead. And really, when it comes to it, marketing 101, it starts with your website. If your website is less than you would rate it a 7 out of 10, then you desperately need to fix it immediately and now. And I think you're probably being too generous if you give it a 7 out of 10, unless you've done a website work recently.
Ask someone
So
else to rate it, not you. Yeah,
ask your
yeah,
wife to rate
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. Ask a friend, or yeah.
Okay, so all right, so 7 out of 10, and Ben, I'm sure you're going to have a statistic for this. So, okay, I jump on my PC or my laptop and I look at my website, and that's fine. What percentage of the customers are going to the website on a PC or laptop, or are they going to it on a cell phone?
Yeah, I mean it's
So mobile.
it's well over 50%, and the assumption should not be that 50% is on desktop. It is on mobile.
Yeah, way over 50% is going to be on mobile. However, your website, here's the good news. We're in 2025, guys. There are so many technologies out there that will enable you to have a good website on both, and it is adaptive. And so that way you can change it, and it's going to look one way on a website desktop, and it's going to look another way on mobile. This is not hard. I mean, 20 years ago, it was really hard. You had to make two different versions and stuff. It's not the case now. So, getting back to it, if your website, if in the back of your mind you're saying my website is, it's a 3 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10, that is the number one thing that you should do when it comes to marketing. That is the number one thing you should do. And does that mean that you should buy a book on coding? No. Does that mean that you should go to Wix.com and start figuring out how to make your own website? I would suggest not, because it's still going to take too much time and energy, and you might not even achieve the 7 out of 10 if you go to one of those template websites. Unless you had a background in design and you're really good at colors and everything, just don't even do it, because it's very economical to get a decent website. So I want to make sure that I'm not being a hypocrite here. If you go to my website right now, how would I rate it? I'd probably rate it at 8.5 out of 10. It is not a 10 out of 10 for sure, but it's not a 6.5 out of 10. So I'm not working on it right now. So just heads up. So number one thing is fix your website. And here's why, is because the next two suggestions are going to be, you have to have a decent website to do this. So next one, SEO. So look above the bald dome, and what does it say? Get a free SEO and sorry, Ben, I didn't mean to make fun of you. Get a free SEO and website. Look above the dome, and what are we talking about? We're talking about SEO. So search engine optimization. What this means is a person types in Sioux City radon mitigation, and if that happens to be the area that your company covers, you are shown at the top of the search engine results. By the way, no other search engine really matters other than Google. I mean, Bing is going to be 5% of the searches, but I mean, it's Google. So focus on Google, and your website needs to be found naturally, which means you're not paying for it. Now, yes, you're paying for it because you're actually paying for a good website, and you're also paying for help to get it there, but it's totally worth it. So number one thing, you build a good website. Number two, you build it in such a way that you can then be found online. There let me just caution you. Google, they've got a few dollars in their pocket. They are hiring graduates from MIT. Their employees are a lot smarter than you. If you read a blog that tells you you can trick and fool Google and you're going to get to the top of the search engine, that worked 25 years ago. It doesn't work today. And the worst thing that you could ever do is spend all this time and energy, build a nice website, and then you get blacklisted and banned from Google. So make sure whoever you're working with, they're using legitimate, proven techniques. If they say that they've got some tricks and it's going to help you get high in the next 3 months, you want to run. And here's the painful thing with this: you got to be in this for the long haul. If you have a search engine optimization guy say that he can get you, to the top of it in 6 months, unless there's no other competition, it's probably going to take over a year. And so, what's painful about this, you're going to be paying for help to get this, and it's going to take a long time before you see anything. But if you want to ever get to greatly beyond where you are now, it's just a price you're going to have to pay. So this is an investment, 1.5, 2 years, 3 years out. And I wish it were shorter. That's just what it is. So next one, PPC. This is when you do, again, so Fort Lauderdale radon remediation. So now a different keyword term. This is where at the top, the paid results, you're being shown. So my company spends unfortunately, tens of thousands of dollars a month on this. So we spend a lot, but the person that I have managing this, I pay them only $500 a month. So I want you to know, having somebody manage your PPC does not have to be expensive. So if you've got somebody that is trying to charge you a lot for this, you need to then really figure out why. At the beginning, there's a lot of work, but then it's really set and forget. So, just heads up, it is very much worth it to pay somebody to help you with this. But I've heard people like, oh yeah, I was quoted $2,000 a month. It's like, I'm spending a fortune and I'm paying just a fraction of that. So just FYI. So SEO, you will probably spend more on your SEO outside resource than you are your PPC, but you need to be doing both. And if I were, I'm saying a lot, but this is an important one. If I were starting a radon business today, or I just barely started and I'm thinking, how in the world do I start getting the phone to ring? If I have a website and I turn on PPC, theoretically and actually and practically, my phone may ring this afternoon or it may ring tomorrow. It turns on immediately. And so that's the nice thing about it is you can immediately get into the mix and immediately start being considered as soon as you're paying PPC.
Hey Bruno, have you got the math on your cost, your acquisition cost per customer with that PPC, or I don't know if you want to share that. If like to get for people to have an idea, obviously that's at scale. So someone who just needs to get 10 more jobs in a week, it's obviously a little bit different, but
yeah, it's extremely painful. So if it is for radon testing with PPC, we are somewhere right around the $8.50. If we're talking about mitigation, now all I'm talking about is this is per click. This is not a sale. This is they did a search, they clicked on it. Get ready to throw up. $85. So $85. Now you got to look back. How's your website? You just spent $85 for somebody to come to your website, and what did you send them to? Did you send them to your homepage that has everything? Did you send them to what's called a landing page that is really focused on that type of a search, maybe for that area or region of the city? And so as you're working with the right person, they're going to talk to you and help you with these things. You're going to be spending a lot. So it's all about then conversions, because let's say that you only convert 1 out of 5 of those people. So 85 times 5 is like what, $425? Guess what? You're not making a profit. You're not making much money with something like that. If you're spending that much, then you need to be able to convert those people. So now let's talk about other. Actually, before we do this, let's talk about other things. So I was just talking to somebody, another mitigator, and he was mentioning Angie leads. And so you've got Angie, you have other types of home services. Um, Let me give you guys a little tidbit. So this is one worth looking into. Thumbtack. So Thumbtack is a kind of like Angie's, but you just pay per lead. And unfortunately, we don't get a lot of them, but we're closing, I don't know, probably 75% of them. And my average thumb cost me $12.50. All right, so here, I actually gave you something that's actionable. If you're not on Thumbtack, the leads actually are pretty cheap and they are buyers to actually buy the system. So there you go. Check out Thumbtack. Next one, Google reviews. How important are Google reviews? And the answer is absolutely 100% important. People are going to be looking at it. When they do a search on Google, it doesn't just take them to a listing of websites, it also takes them, it shows Google Maps. And so those radon companies with good Google reviews, high ratings, large number of ratings are going to be shown up at the top. And a lot of our clients are actually finding us not from doing a Google search and going to our website, but doing a Google search, see us on Google Maps, and then the recommendation, they see we have good reviews, and then they contact us that way. So that is very important. The other thing that's super important about Google reviews is yes, it is natural, so the SEO, but yes, it's also PPC. You can pay to be high in Google Maps when somebody does a keyword search. And if your website expert is not helping you to do that, you need to give them a hard time. So that's a little tidbit that's hopefully helpful. But are Google reviews important? Yes. Now, how do you get Google reviews? Should you be purchasing a bunch of reviews from Indonesia? Again, remember those MIT guys. They're smarter than you. You're going to get caught. You're going to get banned. Do not buy reviews. Should you have your sister-in-law give you a Google review? Quite frankly, if you're that hard up for a Google review, yeah, just say, yeah, these guys are great. Give them a 5-star. But you're not going to build your business based on begging your family members to give you Google reviews. Now, should you beg your customers for Google reviews? And let me just say it was so much easier 5 years ago to get a Google review than it is today. People are oversaturated. They're kind of sick of giving reviews, and so me personally, I've only given a couple of reviews in the last 6 months. I've had some fantastic experiences, whether it be with travel or with restaurants and stuff. And quite frankly, I didn't take the time to give a good review. Reviews are getting harder to get. Does that mean, though, that you should beg more and beg harder? No. But should you look for opportunities when you have a really happy customer to then ask them, hey, this would really mean a lot to our company. Would you mind giving us a review? And the answer is yes, there. It's better to do that in person right at the end of the job when they're saying, you guys were amazing. Hey, thank you so much. It would mean a lot to us. Would you mind giving us a review? To do it then sending them a bunch of texts and emails afterwards begging for it. So should you be searching for reviews? Yes. Should you be pestering your customers? No. So what we do is we ask for a review, and we do that, did you have a great experience? Click this link to give us a review. We do it not just as a standalone email, but we do it when we're then giving them something. And so what does that mean? You should be sending a receipt of payment to every single one of your customers. And so that email where they're receiving that receipt of payment, you can be asking on that. So you gave them something that they value, and you can be asking something in return. They're going to be doing post mitigations. When you send them the post mitigation results, or you follow up on the post mitigation results, you can be asking for a review there. So something to consider. Another thing that my company has implemented is, boy, you always get that one customer where it's just like, oh my goodness, this was the install from hell. Don't ask for a review from them. You don't have to ask a review from everybody. So I've told my people, even if they just seem weird, don't ask for a review because you don't want to get that. I mean, there are some people out there like, I don't give anything more than a 4-star review. Um, you don't want them. You want 5-star reviews. And yes, there are services out there that do help with reviews. My only caution with those is make sure that they don't hold your reviews hostage, that you have to keep being a subscriber to that service, or then your reviews go away. So, yes, there are some that help direct them and stuff. That's fine. But we don't use it. We're actually looking into it right now. So I can't say if it's good or bad, but I'm just giving you a heads up. There are some that hold your reviews hostage. Don't do that.
Super quick,
Okay.
Bruno. I just wanted to say
Yes.
there some services will say they'll take your customer to a page that says, "Are you going to give a 5-star review?" And when they click that, then it takes them to the actual Google review.
Yeah.
And then it says if you're gonna do a 4 below, then it goes to something that kind of looks like Google. Please don't do that. If you see someone that is offering that service to you, don't do that, because if Google finds out that you're doing that, they will ban your account.
Thank you. Did not know that. Perfect. Good
Yeah.
to know. Thank
That
you.
didn't used to be the case, but yeah.
Yeah. Administration, keeping this together. I'm not going to spend anywhere as much time on this as I did marketing and sales. And I didn't even really mention sales. In the end, I just have a saying, and I'll attribute this to myself. I've never heard it before, but I like saying it all the time. Say what you do, and then do what you say. So one more time, say what you do. So you're very accurate and honest. Hey, this is what we do, and then actually do it. Do what you say. And if you can do that, then and you've got something special to sell, then you're going to get the sell, and production is not going to then turn you into a liar. So what you want is that the sales process is seamless, that as they then go in and the installation is there, that it's exactly what they expected. So the goal with installation and production is no surprises. The more surprises there are, the more likely the customer is not going to be happy. And so you got to be really careful that sales, especially if it's not the same person that's actually doing the installation, that sales is giving an accurate and a doesn't need to be too detailed, but a precise description of what the process is going to be. I strongly believe that you should be giving pricing up front, and that you should not be trying to, on the day of installation, trying to upsell them. I don't believe in that model. And so if you, the time that you get there, the customer knows, all right, the price is either going to be A, B, or C, and they already know it. And you don't have to, during the sales process, you don't have to actually promise them which one it'll be. At least, they're not surprised at the pricing on installation. Okay, let's get this administration. So most radon company owners don't pick this as their strength or their interest. So I'm the weirdo here. I mean, I enjoy the administration side of things, most of it. Remember, not HR. So you need to get help. And the best help would be if you do have your partner in life, they're willing to help you. That would be fantastic, because they might be able to work for free. But if you can't find that, then you have to then say, all right, I can't divvy out all of my administrative things, but there are a couple of things that I can. So maybe what I would say is do a personal audit, and you got to be really honest with yourself, and you have to ask yourself, what do I tend to always be late at, and do I tend to avoid? And when I'm like, okay, I've got to get a lot done at the office today, I got things that I don't do that I know I need to do. Those are those key things that you need to get somebody else to do for you. So I cannot emphasize that enough. And our whole goal with this thing is that you end up having a less stress and a better productive and a happier life. I mean, that's really what we're doing here. And so that is a key to it. If you've got something in the back of your mind saying, I know that I'm already late on filing my tax report, boy, that's not the stress that you need. Next one, you got to keep your finances in order. So, taxes, payroll, um, you got to keep up-to-date bookkeeping, your payables or your receivables. Each one of these could be a new stress point for you. So, an example of that would be if you aren't very good at your receivables, you're not very good at collecting from your past customers. What's that going to do to your cash flow? We're all business owners here. And I'll tell you what, the number one thing when somebody comes to me and says, "What's the number one thing in business that I should make sure of?" And it's cash flow, because there is nothing more stressful than you don't know how you're going to make payroll. I mean, seriously, uh, that is the number one stress. You don't know how you're going to make rent. Well, rent, they're not going to kick you out immediately, but payroll, you miss payroll, you might have people leaving you. So, receivables. Now, payables. You don't pay your bills. Um, David, if I don't pay for my millions of augers that I buy from you, are you going to keep shipping them?
Probably not, Bruno, even though we're friends.
Oh, come on, we're friends. Just ship it. What I found. So here's an example for you. So again, I was in the internet business. It was actually the boating business, and we were e-commerce. And so, we would purchase wholesale, and then we would retail online. Uh, and I had a CFO and great friend of mine, and I saw instances where, due to cash flow, he ended up pushing suppliers a little bit. So, oftentimes they'll give you 30-day terms or something, once you get to a certain point, but he starts pushing them, and the relationship changes very, very quickly. So you're best of friends, and you've got a great relationship with your suppliers. When you start pushing them, and now they have to worry about their receivables and their payroll, you're a little bit less shiny. And so my admonition to you is be one of the favorite customers of all of your suppliers, and they'll treat you like gold. Well, they're not going to feel that great about you if you don't pay your bills. And so keep those funds as sacred. And I know that cash flow is tough, and sometimes you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. But if you stiff or you extend your suppliers, that is a very backwards game, and they won't stand for it. Especially as we things tighten up. So just something there. So, all right, you got to keep your finances in order. Now, many people that I talk to that are small guys, they say, I wasn't lucky. I wasn't able to sell a business when I was 40 years old, and then fund my new radon business. How do I do this? And it is tough. It is bootstrapping. It is being extremely careful with your expenditures. It's making sure that you really are charging the correct amount. You might be undercharging, and if you were able to get another $100 or even $200 per system, that would make all the difference in the world to your cash flow. You got to evaluate everything, and ultimately, when it comes down to it, can you get any kind of funding? I would be very careful against um, any kind of loan sharks and stuff. I mean, I get spam emails all the time of, we'll lend you this and this. And the problem is that are they actually just trying to steal your data? You don't even know who these guys are. And so they're never even going to lend you money. But SBA loans, I've actually personally never gotten one other than the PPP loan through the COVID stuff. So I'm not too familiar with it, but that could be a possibility. There's also just friends and family. And wow, you are flirting with fire there, because not every company works out. And now you burned that bridge with that family member or that friend, but that might be, the only way that you can do it. So I can't really tell you how to get money for your company, but once your company is going, uh, you want to conserve it, and you want to be really careful. Which sounds so mundane, but I mean, it really is true. I mean, it just cash flow is king.
Bruno,
All
there
right,
there
next
was a
one.
question on that topic, which was, do you think you could have gotten to where you are now without having that money? I mean, ahead, like, to get as fast as you did, and so what would you
The
do
answer
if
is
you?
absolutely not.
Yeah,
No.
and
No.
what would you do if you didn't?
Yeah. I mean, I was really lucky because the way I started my business is that friend I told you about that I was talking to in the gym, he was not happy with the radon company he was with. He was doing sales and his son-in-law were doing the installs. I said, if I start a radon company, will you guys come on? So I instantly started with 2 employees. And then, I instantly bought them a Sprinter van to work out of. So I guess the answer is, no, it would have gone a lot slower. Um, and so again, I feel grateful for the ability that I was able to do that. So what advice would I give? Every single situation is different, but if you don't feel strong financially, I would get somebody that can be a financial advisor to you to help you to work through it. So that way somebody's got a better sense of this to see, is this going in the right direction or not? If you're not strong, see, I studied finance in college, and so I felt very comfortable with running the financial part of the business. So, not a great answer to the question, other than if you don't feel very strong financially, find somebody that can advise you and help you to do that.
I think 16308's got a question. If you want to jump,
Yeah.
on. Nope.
Bruno, I had something I wanted to add to that you've already covered, but when you're talking about those people that are starting without uh, a lot of things to help them get going, keep the quality up. I preach that every day. I got plenty of customers that are trying to grow, and the first thing I tell them is whatever you do, do not sacrifice the quality because quality especially means reviews. And you touched on that earlier. So,
Well, there's something else too, David, and that is quality is synonymous with integrity. You
yes,
install, excuse the French, you install a shitty system. I'm sorry, but I don't feel like you have, 100% integrity. Unless it's that you're just ignorant and you don't know how to install a good system. But if you don't install a good system, then it's actually an integrity problem.
yes, I agree.
I got some questions for you, Bruno. My name's Jim Dunn. I'm in Dayton, Ohio,
Hey, Jim.
and been in the business a very long time, but we're in a regulated state, and I really admire you and congratulations on your success. But unfortunately, we couldn't do that in Ohio because of the regulated state, and we're supposed to, by law, go out and visit the job ahead of time, uh, and give them a quote, give them a cool off period. And I've got several questions. I'll just give them to you real quick and then you can go ahead and answer them all.
You
I
bet.
particularly want to know like what kind of price level your jobs are at. How do you pay your installers and how do you inspect the work of your installers? Do you just rely on their integrity or do you actually go out and look at every job? And then one other question. I switched from Fantech to Radon Away to Festa over all these years, and I'm very happy with Festa, and I just wondered if you went through some kind of a deal like that to end up with Festa.
Jim, I love these questions because I can answer all of them. I won't remember all of them, but I can answer them. So let's start with the very beginning. In terms of what is the cost of a radon system in Utah? Radon systems are Utah is something that historic. When I came into the business, I saw that the few radon companies that were out there, they were differentiating external systems versus internal systems, and we decided to do the same thing. And so there's two different price points, whether you have an internal or an external. And the difference of that is the fans on the outside of the house or the fans up in the attic. So that's what it is, and it goes up through the roof. Utah radon systems range from we're talking non-crawl space, but just standard radon systems between $1,700 to $2,000. So that's what it is. Now, when I got into the business 8 years ago, the radon systems were in the $1,300 range. So we have seen an increase, of course, of costs, but we've seen an increase that way of the prices of the radon systems. So anyway, that answers number one. Let's see, number two. you're gonna probably have to remind me. I'll just
Uh,
remember which questions you
I
did
was,
have.
how do you pay your installers? Are they by the job?
Hourly, which is I think non-standard. I hear a lot of guys that they're paying it by the job, and that's unfortunately that's not something, at least in Utah state law. If you pay per the job, but then they still work over 40 hours, you now have to still pay them time and a half. So this idea of, I just pay per the job and that's it. I can't get, I don't even want to say that, but like, I can't get away with that because most of my employees during the busy season, they are working 50 to 55 hours a week. And so we're very seasonal in Utah. And we'll talk about that in a second, but we are just slammed busy from November through June. And then summer is actually a slow time for us. And then we start ramping up back again in October. And then we're back to crazy busy again in November.
I,
So
I suspect you have a lot of travel time in your job. If you do the whole state, you got to have tremendous travel time.
yeah, so what we actually do, and we used to do trip jobs where we bulk guys together, and then we would send them out for a week long to a certain place. They stay in a hotel. Now what we do is, because the summertime for us is less busy, we just tell the people that are 6 hours away in Utah, hey, we're very sorry. We do service your area, but we will come out in July. And we've got a bunch of people out there. We come out and we'll take care of you then. And then I will do special trips every once in a while for customer service things to not make them wait, until we're out there if needs be. So that's the answer to that. So we do hourly, and the reason why is, again, by the law, if they work over 40 hours, I have to pay them time and a half. So that doesn't work. Also, if it's per the job, they're kind of incentivized to cut time, cut corners, and I
Yes.
want a quality system. And
Yes. Yes.
so I pay per hour, which also means I pay a lot of overtime. I was just looking at this last payroll, and my overtime was hours were 15% of my regular hours. So, I think I had like over 5,000 hours or something. So I had like 5,000 hours, and it was like 600 hours were overtime. So on top of that. And so, I mean, that's the ratio, and it's expensive. But if my guys are working long, hard days, I'd like to reward them. Now, is that said, are there abuses? Absolutely. And we do some things that do help with that. Our payroll system, we actually have geo locating that it geo targets where did they clock in, when did they clock out. So that way, I fired an assistant because he was clocking in at 5:30 in the morning from bed. He hadn't gotten to work yet. And so, we implemented geo-targeting so we can say, oh, yeah, they're in the shop, when they actually clock in. And so that's helpful.
Well, that kind
So,
of bears on that one question I gave you. Someone needs to be making sure that the jobs are meeting the standards that you want.
yeah.
And
So,
you just
so
trust your guys that they will
no.
do that.
Well, yes, we trust them, but yes, we verify.
And how do you
So, so the answer is, us doing so many jobs every single day, we have a very robust CRM, customer, management system that we have built in-house. We've spent a ton of time and energy on it, but it's very tailored to exactly us and our type of a business. And every single installation, there are about 8 standard photos that they are required to take of the system, and that then goes on to the job. And then my head installer, he actually spends some extra time every single week and looks at every single install, so that way we can then say, hey, this roof flashing, that looked terrible. And plus, if it looks bad enough, we'll just proactively send somebody out to fix it, kind of a thing. So our guys know that they are going to have it looked at. So, but it requires a CRM, in order to do that. There are many kind of generic CRMs that might work for a smaller business, and we actually operated off of Google Sheets for, I don't know, the first 3, 4 years. It was crazy. I mean, I think we had like 6 or 7 crews running, and we were still off of Google Sheets, and it got pretty chaotic. And so then we switched over to this. So just to let you know, our company that we use is called Job Nimbus, and it is actually a roofing contractor CRM, but we liked the nuts and bolts of it, and so we've now extremely customized it to then be what we need, and we've been happy with it. So that answers that. What other question do you have?
I talked about the radon fans, so you could probably do a sales pitch for David right now if you want.
So we started out with Fantech because my first employee, he was already using Fantech, and they were fine. But we decided to move with Festa, and we've never looked back. And Daryl is a good friend, and I respect what he's done in the industry. Before Daryl came along, what did radon fans look like after 3 years sitting outside?
Yeah.
Yellow. I mean, they were terrible. And so, I mean, he has helped the industry to improve its quality. And Daryl, has his own funny quirks and stuff. But I appreciate what he's done, and he has a good product. So I'm very happy with Festa. Okay, great questions, Jim. Thank you. And those are kind of like softball. So that was easy. Thank you. Okay, let's get back to carving out 10% of your time. By the way, we are at this hour and 33. Can I go another 20 minutes or
You go as long as you want, because as long as
Yeah.
you're okay, if people want to drop off, somebody asked, this will absolutely be on the Facebook page. It'll be on the YouTube page, so you can watch. If you can't finish watching now, this is going to be there. So yeah, take as much time as you
all
want.
right,
Yeah.
I'm respectful of your time. And I think I've got some good stuff coming, and I'll try to keep this going. Okay, you as the owner of your company, if you are not carving out at least 10% of your time for big picture growth, projects, not just day to day, dealing with the fires that come into you, then you have to figure out how to carve out more time. So I was advised that a CEO should be spending 25% of his time on business development. And that seems extreme, especially for small business owners. It's hard to get to that. But your goal should be that it should be something. So many times we're running around trying to just solve today's problems that we're not doing that 10%. That 10% is basically your Social Security payment for your future business. If you're not investing in it, it's never going to happen. And so ask yourself, how am I going to do that? Now, yeah, you can ask yourself, now you have to figure out, how do I do it? And the way that I personally do it is I carve out blocks of time, blocks of hours, to do this. So 10% doesn't sound like much, but 10% of, most of us are working 50, 60-hour weeks. 10% of 50, 60 hours, that's 5, 6 hours. That's actually a significant amount of time, especially if you're not spending it right now on business development. So, you know what? Maybe you can only carve out 1 or 2 hours a week because you don't want to work 63 hours. You only want to work 60 hours, and you can't make it any more compact. Even if you can only carve out 1 or 2 hours of your time, it's going to be 1 or 2 hours you're investing in your future more than you were before. So do a self audit. And if you are not spending dedicated time every single week on future business development, start and figure out how. And if you have to schedule it, do that. That's important. All right, next one. Stop chasing your tail. And when I first got into this business, I got to know some of the other radon companies that were in Utah, and actually, got to become acquainted with some of the owners. And I talked to them about how their business was doing, and I guess they didn't really know, ultimately what we would end up doing, taking over the marketplace. But and the happy news is that the two main guys, they ended up selling both of their businesses, and so they got out okay. So I didn't crush anybody. So even though we're 85%, they ended up still staying whole. But as I was talking to them, I was just fascinated at how much of their time, when we talked about how their business was doing, them complaining about problems in their business. And as they shared what some of those problems were, uh, it was really interesting. It wasn't problems about, um, a high post mitigation thing, or it wasn't problems about the cost of PVC or something like that. What it was about are installation problems, or they promised something and now they can't, finish it either on time or something like that. Or, I mean, a big one was problems with suppliers. So, I mean, David, what percentage of your customers are contacting you in a panic saying, I'm out of fans, can you ship today? Versus, you know what, they order in advance and they say, if you can get it out in the next couple of days, that's fine with me. I know that you ship immediately, but how often do you find people are in a panic because they didn't order in enough time?
Probably 50%.
Don't be that 50%. And I know that, there's cash flow reasons and things like that, but what you're trying to do, this slide is so important. You're trying to reduce your stress. Um, you're trying to make it so you can sleep through the night and you're not thinking about business problems. Um, so yes, there are natural problems that occur. You're coring through a foundation and you hit a drain pipe. Okay, that sometimes happens. Shouldn't happen very often, but it sometimes happens. And you know what? Those are things that you can't, you can't avoid really. But those things you can't avoid, fine, deal with them. But all the things that you can avoid, again, having enough supplies in hand so you're not stressed about how you're going to get the job done. My goodness, that is so avoidable. The other thing is, um, I would say being proactive with your employees. So I decided I was lucky because I didn't have partners or investors. I could be a little bit more generous with my personnel than probably normal. So my company pays a higher per hour rate than actually other trades, even in Utah, not just radon companies, but other trades, because you're more likely going to lose your employees not to another radon company, but they're going to now suddenly decide they're going to be plumbers or they're going to be electricians or HVAC or something like that. And so don't just think about what's my competition paying their guys. You need to think about what does an HVAC guy in my area make and stuff, and you need to be competitive or actually better than that. The other thing that we are doing is I do a 10% match on 401k, which is outrageous. I mean, but what I'm trying to do is instill in them this can be a career and your profession, not just you're coming in for a little while. And so, I mean, a bunch of my people, they put 10% of their paycheck in and it's instantly doubling because I match it 100% up to 10%. I've mentioned this before, but I also pay health insurance for both them and their entire family. It's a high deductible, and they can pay for lower deductibles, but I do that. So because of that, why does that have to do about chasing your tail? I am trying to be proactive to make the environment that I as possible. So let's just be honest. Installing radon systems um, can be hard work, can be dirty, can be hard, can be hard on you physically. Uh, so it's easy to get people come and go. It is possible, and I've seen this within my company, to get long-term employees that stay and they turn it into a career. But why? It's because we were proactive to create an environment that they wanted to stay. Here's another example for you. Um, our business, our building, we are in 23,000 square feet, which is crazy. And the reason why is because I actually I have all of our vans parked inside of our warehouse every single night. And that might seem kind of crazy to you, but the reason why is that when the guys come in the morning and it's freezing cold, they don't have to come out to radon vans that are covered um, in snow. And so, I mean, let's see. So here's kind of an example of, our parking inside of our van. So we're able to actually keep all of our equipment and our pipes and everything in. And then, we've got 18 vans and then runaround cars in there. It's incredibly expensive. But why am I doing that? It's not to brag to you guys on it. I'm doing that because my employees ultimately have already a hard day, but I'm trying to make it that much better. So maybe you don't have the ability to get a big warehouse to keep your stuff in, but are there things that you can do to make it better? Are there some problems with your vehicles that are irritating your employees? Well, that could be something that ultimately drives them away. So something to consider there. So stop chasing your tail. And part of that is you have to ask yourself, how am I going to keep my employees? Obviously, it's how you pay them and everything, but it's also then how you treat them. So don't know if anybody has any comments with that. Also, let me just, as you're thinking about any questions or something, the only way that I could do this is if I was charging more than $800 per system, more than $1,200 per system. And so if you're in an area where, yeah, I mean, the systems are too cheap and it's tough, figure out how can you, start bumping up your prices. Because if you can't pay for a decent wage to your people, they're going to leave. Let me just share one last thing about this. So early on, I started having some of my installers and assistants quit. And on their last day, they said, I just never want to be in another crawl space again. So, I mean, who enjoys being in a crawl space all day? No one ever said that. And so I'm like, what in the world am I going to do? Because, we have to do crawl spaces. And so I came up with a program, and on their paycheck, it says shitty day bonus. No joke. And if they are in a crawl space for half a day, my installers get $50. If they're in a crawl space all day, they get $100. That's a bonus. That's on top of what they're making hourly. And if you look at the per hour rate, it goes through the roof. But I'll tell you what, I've not had anybody quit that said, I'm quitting because of crawl spaces. In fact, I now have people say, hey, start giving me your crawl spaces. And
Yeah.
it's a crappy, crappy day, but it's worth it. So if you think about it, if I'm paying, let's say, the installer $100 to be in that crawl space and the assistant $50, that's $150. If it's a crawl space, I should be able to charge that $150 more to cover their costs. And if we're good at marketing and good at sales, we're still going to get the job. That's not going to price us out. Crawl space. Crawl spaces, are usually costing what? Small ones, 2,500 up to $6,000. $150 is not going to with them more of saying, hey, I'm sorry you had to be in there. And just something to consider. So I'm talking a lot about employee compensation, but it gets back to how important it is that you're not worrying about your employees. Do you still have problems? I mean, I just told you I just lost an employee yesterday that quit. So it's not perfect. There are some things that are out of your control. But what I've seen is many of my employees that actually have left within 2 or 3 months, they're back knocking on our door and are asking for their job back. And if they left, in a good way, oftentimes we will take them back because we know that they're going to tell the rest of the crews, the world is really scary. Stay in here. This is a great place. So, by the way, I just noticed that I don't know what it's about, but I just received a text from that employee that quit yesterday. So who knows? Maybe he wants his job back.
Yeah, he wants.
Okay.
He loves something in the van. Hey, Bruno, somebody did ask what your profit margin is.
That's a great question. And the answer is I haven't finished out last year, but let me, yeah, let me kind of, all right. So I am an LLC and I'm taxed as an S Corp. And my goal is to hit 20%. But in order to do that, I pay myself a very modest salary. And most of my money that I take from the business is in terms of distributions, partner distributions. So if I put all of what I pay myself as salary or something like that, I'd pay a lot more in like Social Security and Medicare tax than I need to. So that's the format that I do this. But you should be able to be in the mid to high teens if you find. And the reason why I'm kind of stalling on this is that some people pay themselves a salary and then but I mean, if you're the owner and you're paying yourself, that really is coming from profits. And so, if you are going to do that, that math, it needs to be what are you paying yourself along with what distributions are you taking? And the two of those combined should be in the mid-teens. That's healthy. And now 20, that is actually really good. And that's I'm working really hard to keep my costs down. So speaking of that, I mean, what are your product costs? I am right around 25% of total revenues is cost of goods, and that does not include labor. So your supplies should be, if your supplies, if you add it all up, if it's more than 30 or 35% of your business, because you're not buying in bulk, and so you're not getting the best deals. But if you're, let's say, 35%, you should be able to do better. You should be able to get better deals or discounts. Let me give you an example. PVC pipe. If you go to Home Depot, if you buy one stick of 4-inch pipe, it's going to be X. If you buy 10 sticks or better, it's going to be pretty significantly less. And so one of the things that you should be working on is looking at how can I buy in bulk from different places so that way I can get better pricing. And what I've found is your volume should merit discounts, not trying to beat up your suppliers. Because they need to make money too, and so it's only going to be your being extra value by buying in bulk. Here's an example for you. We install floor bushings, PVC bushings in every single one of our systems. When we core, I mean, what are you guys usually coring with? 5-inch core, 5-inch hole. We do 6.25, and we're then gluing in a PVC bushing that holds our pipe. Well, that PVC bushing, if you go to many of the suppliers, they're going to be selling them for $30 to $40 each. I buy them at 750 units at a time, and I buy it for a fraction of that. And so there are opportunities where you can buy in bulk, where uh, especially things like those specialty items, you can get them for half or a third of the cost of them if you're just buying one. So I would recommend you talk with David Smith and just say, hey, I'm buying my supplies from you. Which of the supplies that I buy in bulk am I able to get any kind of a discount? I'm not trying to get them to beat you up, David, but there may be opportunities that you guys both can share. So just a thought.
Sure.
So hopefully that answers that question. So you should be shooting what you're paying yourself plus any kind of distributions. You should be in the teens. If you're only 5%, you have created a job for yourself and not a business. Your goal to be a business owner is to be able to bring in really good people that work for you and that you care about and they care about you, and you're able to take a vacation every once in a while and not be working 60, 78 hours a week. Okay, this is the last one, and then we'll kind of do a kind of a closeout. So I've given some presentations before, whether it be to different regions or at the national symposium. So many of you guys that have heard me talk about this. And radon without real estate, is it possible? Um, is it possible to have a radon business and not have to deal with um, Rebecca, who last month was a hairdresser, and she failed, and so she became a realtor, and now she's telling you that you have to get out tomorrow and install a system for $800, or she's never going to call you again. Well, Rebecca, I wish you well. So with what we're doing, under 15% of my business is real estate transactions. I actually see this. I'm proud of it because I know how difficult real estate transactions can be. You've got timing issues. You have demanding customers. You have people who don't want you there. That's the sellers of the
Yeah.
house. And I mean, it's a whole bunch of problems. The other problem with it is now your business is relying on the sale of homes, and it's relying on inspections, and it's relying on a whole bunch of other things. So as I talk to radon companies throughout the country, there are many of them where they really, really are struggling. And it's just because in the real estate business, I mean, remember a couple of years ago when they weren't even doing inspections? And so it's like, if they're not doing inspections, my radon business is down. Or they are doing inspections, but then the realtors, because they're so hungry right now, they're either looking for the lowest cost radon system or whatever. I mean, you guys all know the issues that we have dealing with the real estate business. So I actually, this is an opportunity for me to grow my real estate business in Utah. But let me give you some warnings. I did, and I'm not exaggerating the numbers here. I taught a CE class once a week for 2 years straight to realtors. I made it a high priority. This was as I was growing my business. And I actually had an employee that their job was to get these CE classes. And I just did a 1 hour CE. It was a core CE credit. And whether it was remote, because of COVID reasons, or it was in person, I did it every single Wednesday for 2 years straight. So I did over 100 CE classes. And what did I actually see as a net result of that? Yeah, some of them end up using us and stuff. And you got to remember, my company, if you're not aware, we offer free radon testing. This is both to consumers as well to realtors. So during a real estate transaction, I've got people that drive around in little Utah radon cars that set and collect CRMs and tests. And even if it was free, I found that most of the realtors, they'd say at the end of the CE class, that was one of the best CE classes I've ever attended. Thank you. I learned so much. But then they would never start doing it once a buyer went under contract. So let me just caution you, is it completely worthless to try to work with realtors? Absolutely. There's some value there. But are you going to grow your business significantly if that's what you're focusing your time on? I'm telling you, there might be lower hanging fruit than that. So something, just a word of wisdom. Is it possible? Yes, but you're not going to explode your business if you start giving CE classes, even if it's great. Maybe I did it wrong, but I tried to make it very clear free testing is available, gave them all the information, and very few of them would actually call when a buyer went under contract. All right, free testing. I mentioned that. In 2024, we did over 30,000. I think it was like 30,400 free radon tests to the public in Utah. It's pretty crazy. What's even more crazy is that these were alpha energy tests, by the way. 75% of those people sent their completed tests back to the lab. If you ask Alpha Energy, that is higher than the average from people that purchase a radon test from the state. They don't get a 75% return rate. So there's a couple of keys to this. And jumping back to what's going to make us special, this was one of my key ideas when I even started the radon business. It's like nobody knows about radon in Utah. How am I going to do it? Am I going to just do a bunch of commercials to scare them? No, I'm going to offer free testing, and it's worked out. So the key is you have to do programs where they are asking you for a radon test, not that you're handing out radon tests. If you go to a home show and you have a booth and you've got free radon tests, come grab one. You are going to, get rid of 500 radon tests or 1,000 radon tests, and you're going to have, if you're lucky, a 5% send to the lab rate. They're going to put it in their bag and then they're going to forget it, something like that. I was speaking to a mitigator at the Midwest conference that I spoke at last year, and he said, "Yeah, I did a home show 500." He said I got less than 5 radon tests turned in. So it's not doing that. You have to do things that people are asking you. So that is working with outside organizations that are doing. Then they say, everything about radon, and they are the ones that are motivating people to test their home, and they say, and an opportunity to get a free radon test. Go to them, and they put in their information, and they are requesting a radon test from you. So it seems like a lot of work, and yes, it is a lot of work, but if you don't have, like, so for example, working with HOAs, let's say that there's a large HOA that the HOA president, and you can get them to say, in their next newsletter, say, hey, we know that there's a lot of high radon in our community. Here's an opportunity for you to get a free radon test. That is a plus. I didn't build my business around HOAs, but that is on a smaller scale. What we are doing is we are working with radon, both survivors and I guess you could say victims and their families, and we're telling their story. And we are doing this both on social media, and we're also doing it on the news. And so that is what's producing such enormous public awareness. But I mean, I'm paying a PR firm, and it's a lot of time and effort to do this, but it's working well. All right, so they must ask for one. The next key to this is if you don't have a systematic and automated follow-up system, this is going to fail. And so what I mean by this is our system, once they've put it in and we mail it out, we then have, this is the status. After 4 days, we're sending them an email and a text that say, you should have received your test by now. This is a reminder, you need to start it. And then when they start it, they actually can log into something that then lets us know that they actually started it. If we don't get that, we're actually sending them another reminder a few days later. The key here is we're helping them through the process. Another key part is once they've started it, we're sending them a text 2 days later to remind them, pick up the darn thing. Because I mean, how many people start the test, they forget it in their basement, and they come back 3 weeks later? So very automated, but I'm just letting you know that this is something that is, it can be successful, but it is a tremendous amount of work. And let me then caution, I tell you that 90% of the companies that I have talked to that have tried offering free radon testing, they quickly stop. It is not financially viable for them. It quickly overwhelms them, and they don't have the systems in place, the people in place in order to manage this. So I'm not telling you not to do it, but what I am telling you is that this is not your quick win. Remember I said back with Elon Musk, this is not that secret that then quickly helps you to build, Starship or something like that. It's a lot of the basics and stuff. But this is something where it can be successful. Tremendous amount of work goes to do it. So if I were starting out a radon company from scratch and I don't have a lot of resources, would I consider free testing? And the answer is maybe. And here's what's up. I'm excited to tell you this. I was able to help 2 of the largest labs to change their models of how they can sell tests. And that is you can purchase a test without lab fees or shipping back. And so you buy it, but you need to buy in bulk. And what I mean by in bulk is at least 100 tests at a time, if not more. And so you can go to, I'm not going to name names, but some of the largest testing companies. You can purchase the test in bulk, and now those people that don't send back the test, you don't ever have to pay lab fees for. So now your cost is a lot less to at least give out the tests. So that's a positive. Then when they send it in, now you have a separate bill that pays for the lab fee. And I would always suggest that you pay for the shipping for the person to send it back to the lab. And remember, you don't even have to pay for that unless they use it. So it's not like you're prepaying for shipping that wasn't used. So the 2 largest labs, they have agreed to do this kind of a program, not just with me, but with other mitigators. So that's a positive. So at least you now have a method of purchasing, and you should probably expect about the just the test itself is about one third the cost of the entire test kit. So I mean, you're saving two-thirds on those that aren't being shipped back. So it makes it more feasible to to do it that way. Um, Now, if I didn't have a lot of resources, but I wanted to try free testing, I would come up with a method of how can I get a number of people to request a test. And I mentioned the HOA. There are neighborhoods, there's HOAs, there's other forms of marketing. You could even consider people that are on Google that are searching for radon tests in your area to offer the radon test there. So remember, I said at the beginning, my cost for radon tests on Google pay-per-click is right about $8.50. Remember, I said that. Well, that's kind of crazy. I'm paying $8.50 for somebody to get a free radon test. Right? Kind of crazy, huh? Well, in Utah, um, during the higher radon season, about 50% of the radon tests are coming back elevated. And so that makes it, the numbers wise, work out that that works out. It makes sense. So uh, those are just kind of some of the quick things. But unless you have a way of following up and reminding people, even if you get people to request a test, but you're not following up, and you could technically follow up um, with using. I mean, uh, there are text messaging programs that you pay, $50 a month for a subscription that you'd have to do it really manually, but you could send reminders that way. It'd be a lot of work, but at least you could, dip your feet in the water. If you're not going to follow up, don't even try free radon testing. It is not going to work for you, but it is possible.
$8.50 is way better than that $85,
For mitigation.
pay per click, right? So you could do 10 of those,
Well, but no, but yeah. So I mean, think of it this way. Yeah. So $8.50 for a radon test. If 50% come back high, well, only 75% of them got turned in. But then, you start doing the math, and it does pencil out. So, yeah, you're
Bruno,
right.
I'd like to interject for just a minute and go back. If any of you have not seen some of the film work that Bruno's company has done with radon exposure survivors and non-survivors, that's really touching.
Yeah,
Some of those segments will take a non-believer or hundreds of non-believers and make them believers. So I urge you folks, I'm not sure exactly how to access it, but I'm sure Bruno can tell you. But some of the film work he's done with radon exposure health issues is very touching.
it is. If you were at the National Symposium this last year, I grabbed an award that went to one of the survivors, but I got it on her behalf, and I cried like a baby. I've gotten to know many of these people personally.
Yeah, it was something to
Yeah,
see the one I'm thinking of in particular with the lady making the cookies, the grandmother making the
yeah,
cookies.
yeah. And unfortunately, her brain cancer is progressing, and she's struggling. So, yeah, it's close.
Good.
Oftentimes, it's fans and it's pipes and it's HR problems and everything, but I mean, in the end, we are saving lives.
Yes. Yes.
Um, this is now for you, David, as I as I wipe away my tears. Is it possible to grow your business without real estate and without free testing? And the answer is yes, because I heard that you did, David. Can you tell us how you did it?
Well, I've been around close to 30 years as far as mitigation. Uh, Not quite as much as at least one person here, but I think right in the beginning, as you described, right in the beginning, uh, I found that the real estate industry, I was trying to work with them, do presentations and everything else, and and found no loyalty whatsoever. And I said, look, if I can't survive in this industry without real estate, then then I'll go back to remodeling, or I'll go back to other work that I was also somewhat talented at. But um, but I just pecked away at it with builders. I pecked away at it by trying to introduce radon health risk. And it was a pretty big deal 25, 30 years ago because it was an awful big percentage of non-belief compared to today. But it did work. It did work. My percentage of new construction was considerably higher than my percentage of real estate work. And the only real estate work I did, which is important also, Ben, to remember, I did a pretty good percentage of real estate work, but it was all sellers that said, I'm not buying that home if David Smith doesn't do the mitigation because of the quality reputation I built by not getting sucked into that lowest price thing. And I think that's why I preach it so much now, because you can only do so many low priced jobs to satisfy the real estate industry before the quality has to match the price.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, there is no loyalty. Just heads up, less than 5 minutes left of this presentation. So stick with us, guys. You've been great. Here are the key takeaways, and then I'm happy to stay and answer some questions. So the first one, identify what areas of your business is keeping you up in the middle of the night, and do you have a plan to fix or change it? So um, if you've never asked yourself point blank, what's really bothering me? Ask that question. If you don't have a plan, get started on it and know it is fixable. If it's not fixable, good news. Remember, we said Rebecca, she stopped being a hairdresser. There's an opening for hairdressers. You're going to have to go to school, but you can be a hairdresser in Rebecca's spot. She's now a realtor. All right. Number two, you cannot be all three. Even if you're good at all of them, even if you're interested in all of them, your business is not going to grow. You need help. You need to choose what am I able to start with, um, move over to somebody else, and eventually your goal is that you've got people that are helping you with all three of these segments. It is possible, believe me. So you can't be all three. You need to identify and then start working on a plan immediately to address it. And remember, you don't have to give away all of your sales and all your marketing at first. But uh, no radon mitigator should be building his own website. That one's such a no-brainer. Don't be doing that. If you don't have the time or money to fix your personal weaknesses, then what are you going to do? Um, how about not focus on your personal weaknesses and focus what you're interested in, and then let somebody else do that? It's not as easy as I said, but it is so key. I see too many people where they're just battling the same thing, and it's like, hey, you're the fat lady in the gym I've seen for the last 10 years, and I'm the fat guy in the gym. Let's just give it up. We're still going to go to the gym, but focus on other stuff. Actively find help to fill in the gaps that you need. So the gaps are the things that you're not interested in, things that you're not very good at, or the things that you just don't have time to do. You need to force yourself to spend every week doing business development, even if it goes down to 1 hour a week and you just cannot reduce your workload. Fine, add 1 hour a week onto how much you're working. But I hope that you can be just a little bit more efficient so that way you don't have to work more to do this, more hours, but you owe it to yourself. This is your investment in your future and your future of not working as much, quite as much, and having less stress. You need to start thinking it really is possible. I can grow my business outside of real estate transactions. David and I are not the only ones that have done this. I know many people in the industry that have done it, but the vast majority of radon companies are 80 or 90% real estate transactions, and you are not the master of your domain. Somebody else owns you, or at least they think they own you, and I'm sure it's not a good feeling. you can, I'm not saying ditch it completely, but you can grow your business. Think of the way you can grow your business outside of the real estate transactions. Keep doing the ones you're doing, but you can grow it outside of it. All right, last thing, and my wish is that you don't move on after this presentation and you log off without writing down your thoughts that you had, and hopefully you're going to have one or two things or more that you're going to do and work on and you're going to change. So put the pen to paper as soon as we're done with this and write it down so you don't forget it. Again, I've seen many different presentations where you're like rah rah and it's like I'm going to do this and then you move on to the next thing. I know we've taken a lot more time than normal, but if you don't write it down, you're not going to make any change. So my hope is that you would my ask is write this down when we're done. All right, what were your thoughts? And again, it doesn't even have to be anything that we talked about. It could be a random thought of, you know what, I need to change to automatic billing, how I pay my utilities. Whatever it is, if it's going to save you some time in grief, write it down, implement it. There we go. And no, you don't get any CE credit for this. Sorry. So would love to, talk to you guys, answer questions, and here is my contact info. And please send any complaints on to the boys.
Well, I got to say, Bruno, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you being a guest speaker because I think everybody that listens to this presentation picks up several things, and I certainly have a whole page of notes I made, and I just can't tell you how much we appreciate it because it's a lot of help to a lot of people.
Well, thank you. Love, love to do it. I've had about 15 different mitigators who owns business mitigation business actually come out to Utah and come visit us and even shadow our crews for a couple of days and stuff. And so very happy to, if any of you want to do that. We had somebody come just 2 weeks ago and they spent 3 days at our business. So wouldn't charge you anything. I mean, especially if you're not going to come work in Utah, that's the only caveat. If I'm going to show you my business, don't set up shop in Utah. But no, seriously, any way that I can do to help because in the end, it's not about installing pipe and fans. It's about saving lives. And so many times we get distracted, but we are making a difference and you guys are making a difference. And I respect you for that.
I know that Bruno has offered in January. He's pretty busy, and so I don't know if that's something to think about for 2026. If you'll be doing that again, but I don't know if you want to mention that you've had people come out and.
Yeah. So we have now had over the last 3 seasons, we got so busy that I just didn't have enough certified mitigators. And maybe some of you have seen these requests, but we have right now 4 mitigators from outside the state of Utah that have been with us. The minimum commitment was 5 weeks. And they came in and, they already have installed systems. So we're not training them how to install a system. They spent up to 5 days with some of my head installers and trainers to verify that they know what they're doing and also learn our systems. And then we put them on a van and with an assistant, and they then installed, and they made very good money. And I put them up in a VRBO or Airbnb, and they had an adventure out in Utah for a month. They were employees, not contractors, and temporary employees, and it was a really good experience. So we had another great experience with this year, and probably come October, November, we'll be looking for more. Many of them have come back over multiple seasons because it's been a good experience. But usually we're looking for a couple of new ones, and so keep your eyes open for that. If either David Smith or Festus send out an announcement, that's what that program's about. And we've now had, I think, 15 installers go through that, and everybody's been happy. So thank you for asking about that.
Yeah, if you've got flexibility in your schedule and you're not currently doing 2 systems a day, this is a huge opportunity to get a lot under your belt in a 5 week span and have a little adventure.
Yeah, typically it's like January, February, March kind of time frame that we're doing this with people. So
Yeah,
yeah, great.
absolutely.
Questions. Seriously, I'd love to. Any thoughts, comments? Tell me where I'm full of it, please.
I don't have anything over on Facebook, but if anybody wants to jump in on
Yeah.
unmute, go
I
ahead.
think we've done a good job of
I think
getting questions
Steve was
during the
going to say something.
presentation.
Go ahead, Steve.
Say, did any of those guys stick on permanently?
Great question. So I promised as I send it out, I'm not trying to steal your employees. And
Hmm.
so I have had three that have come actually moved to Utah to come work for us, but all of them were sole proprietors and they didn't quit somebody else. So, the answer is yes, some of them actually turned into full-time employees, but if it's a situation where you're already employed with somebody else, then a permanent job is not available to you. And just out of respect for them, because what I want to make this is an opportunity where a business owner that's struggling to get enough jobs for his guys knows he can send one out. They're going to get amazing experience and training, but we're not going to steal them. So the answer is yes, but you have to be, I guess, a sole proprietor in order for us to consider that.
What has been your best avenue as far as finding new employees?
Excellent question. From within our existing group, again, nepotism is rampant. I've got one installer where he has a couple of cousins and brother-in-law and other things. But I've had
Networking.
networking, but I've actually had pretty good success with Indeed.
Yeah.
And so no success at all with what's that? We don't even use it in Utah. We use a different, just a marketplace. I don't even know. Indeed works best for us, and we'll pay what it costs to do the promotion or whatever, and we have such a rich package that we offer people. Assistants start at, depending on their experience, they start at around 20 to $22 an hour, and then they can work up from there. Many of my installers are making in the 30s plus an hour, not just 30, but up into the even high 30s and stuff. So I was taking a look, and I had a couple of installers make six figures this last year. So it makes it easier to hire too if you're doing a compelling compensation package.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you. Good interview.
We did have a question from Brian Coy. Said, does your CRM manage the follow-ups on your testing campaigns?
It does, but that was all custom made. So we spent a lot of months and a lot of programming dollars to do it, but yes, it does. But it's all custom. Great question.
All right, last chance. Anybody have anything else they want to jump in? You got your opportunity with Bruno.
Again, if you don't want to, take my contact information, and I'm happy to get back to you. I don't offer consulting services, but I'm happy to answer your questions.
You don't offer
My
consulting, but you can get a job, which is virtually the same thing. In 5 weeks.
Yeah, my final question is when we going to get you back, Bruno?
Oh, geez. Next year.
I was gonna say it only took us a year, so we'll see if we could do it still in 2025. Maybe we'll get one before Christmas. So
Well, I just wanted to see if David and Ben would get along, and so I waited for a year to see if they're still friends, and they still are. So I was like, all right, I could jump into this trio.
Well, David and I just got our booths at the Midwest ARST conference coming up here in a few weeks. I know there's going to be about 100 of you up there. So in Chicago on March 7th, would love to see you, meet you, talk to you guys. I have said this is the time. The hallway conversations are where you can track people down that are doing what you want to do and learn how they do it. That happens really organically at the stakeholders meetings, at the national symposium. Don't do it virtually if you can't. I mean, if you're just trying to get CEs, but like get your butt to Chicago, get to
It's worth it.
Fort Worth this year, and don't be a loner. Sit down at a table with somebody you don't know, and look for nuggets on things that are going to change your business. Yeah,
The other thing about going to whether it's the regional or the national symposium is it helps to reset your mind and your purpose of why you're doing this. Again, we get so caught in the day to day and the pipes and the fans and things like that. It helps to inspire you. It inspires me still to go, even if they're talking about boring stuff with regulation or whatever. Again, those hallway conversations totally worth it. So echo what you're saying. Go, 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 go. It's worth it. It's expensive. It takes time, but it's worth it.
I think the industry's going through some really amazing changes, and I think that somebody's been around as long as I have. I'm more excited about where the industry's at right now than I've ever been.
for sure.
Well, great. Well, thank you again for the opportunity to do this. Thanks for the questions. And
Yeah.
again, the hope is that just one thought popped into your mind at least that said, I'm going to work on X. So that's the goal.
Well, thank you, Bruno. We'll see you again next week for your presentation that you'll be giving. Good luck. No. Thank you so much, Bruno. We appreciate it. And there'll be this conversation again. Jump into. We've got 195 people in our Facebook group. They're only mitigators. They're only testers. There's no one from the public that's in that group. So jump in there, and on this thread, on this video, you can continue the conversation. You've got stuff, and we've got people talking about stuff every week. So jump on there. So I've got nothing left. What do you think, David?
Yeah, thanks everybody for participating with all the presentations that we try to have, and everybody keep up the good work. So we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
guys. Thank you, Bruno.
Thank you.
Bye.